Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your review show. I'm your host Khalid Mohideen, and yeah, South Africa lost the series 2-0, whitewash in Pakistan. Lessons to be learned in this particular series is what we're going to be talking about. There are quite a few lessons to be learned and some positives to take away from it. We need to also just be a little bit level-minded and level-headed about everything, and the way we approach our reactions to this. But on top of that, I'm also going to allow fans to just have their say. I'm going to have fans call into the show. You guys can call into the show. The link is in the description for that, so that you can give your raw opinions and your raw thought processes about what you feel about South African cricket at the moment, where it's going. We had an amazing show last night as well about it. We will continue speaking about this until they announce when our next test will be. I want to do a few shows with different people, getting different opinions from everybody around in South Africa. And that's the aim that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go on a hunt over the next couple of weeks to find as many interviews as I can to get an understanding of where South Africa is right now and where South Africa is going, how we can compare this to previous times that South Africa's played, trying to find some learnings from the past and finding learnings from the present, looking at the different players that are on the brink of becoming test players. I feel that we have to approach every scenario differently, every single format differently. There needs to be an understanding of where we are going and what type of cricket we are going to be playing, and finding an identity. So before we get going, I want you guys to please click subscribe on the channel, click the notification bell for all future videos. Sorry guys, I'm getting distracted by Alan's celebrations at the back end of here because I can see his little icon and him going completely crazy because he's obviously watching the versus India match. And we'll get him on the show soon, and I'll get all the guys on the show soon. I want you guys to please go to the super chat if you want to give your views and you're not going to call in on the show. Please contribute with a super chat so that we can read out your comments and we can read out your rants. I want you to guys be open, honest in your rants on the show. Say exactly what you want to happen with South African cricket. Be as open and honest as you want, because it's our time as fans to have our voice. So without further ado, let us bring on our panel. So first and foremost, let me introduce you to Paul. Bring him on the show. We've got Tim, the cricket guy. Bring him on the show too. We've got Aditya, who will be speaking a little bit about the press conference or as much as he can, or if he did go to the press conference, we're not sure yet. We can update us on that. And then we've got Mr. Cricket Connoisseur, who's celebrating like a mad thing in the bottom right-hand corner. What is happening over there?
England got a wicket.
You're muted, bro.
Sorry, I'm muted. Sorry, I was waxing lyrical. I didn't want to go too far into this, but Jack Leach just got Rohit Sharma out with an absolute jaffer. And I'm not talking cakes or oranges, boys. That was absolutely beautiful bowling. 25 for 1. England in the driving seat within the first 6 overs. What a magnificent piece of bowling that is, courtesy of Somerset's left-arm off-spinner.
Okay, cool. Let's move on from that. So South Africa 2-0 whitewash in Pakistan. Massive disappointment all around, because I think that all fans believed, okay, not all fans, but some fans believed that we could take this over the line, that we could replicate what the West Indies did yesterday as well. When Aiden looked as good as he did, everybody was really hopeful. And the way Temba looked at the crease and the way they were batting together was phenomenal. I think a lot of people thought at that point that South Africa could possibly get it over the line. Unfortunately, I think those losses, the loss to Rassis early on, the loss to Faf also hit us hard. And then obviously Temba Bavuma win. But that was only after Aiden lost this weekend. And I think that opened the floodgates to everybody. And you could see how disappointed Aiden was. He hit his bat on the ground. He hit his bat as well with his first. He was so disappointed in that wicket because he knew it opened up opportunity for Pakistan to get in there. And especially with the new ball taken, we needed to see off that new ball a little bit longer maybe, or I don't know what we needed to do with concentration levels. I think it was 2 poor shots to lead to the wickets, especially Quentin de Kock's wicket and of course Aiden Markham's wicket, both poor shots. And unfortunately, they lost their wickets. Rassi, you could say that he got a good ball. a 95-run defeat. I want to know what you guys think, but let's start with the panel. We're going to go around the ground. We're going to go from South African, obviously, into the overseas guys. We also have another caller waiting to join, Shay, and we'll wait for him to come on the stream. And when he's ready, we'll add him to the equation as well. But Mpo, give me your rant. What are your thoughts right now, raw, uncut, on Cricket Fanatics magazine?
I've calmed down. I really have. But I'm just disappointed by the senior players in the second test. I felt Dean gave us a start in the first innings, but obviously he kept on fishing outside the off stump. He does that in domestic cricket, which bothers me a lot. But the fact that I think someone noticed it in the press conference. I think 81 runs were scored by Faf, Dean, and Quinton in this test across the two innings, which is not good enough. Quite frankly, it's not good enough. Positives are the fact that Rassie, Temba, and Aiden got some runs. Obviously, Aiden went on to go score his 100. He didn't kick on. That's nobody kicked on in this test. So in this test series, so we can't fight it. But it kind of felt that there was a lot of naivety towards the guys who were coming back in. And Enoch spoke about preparing the guys to make sure that they're ready when they're coming back in to try and stem the wicket flow, because the wickets were falling in clusters. But it seemed like guys were not ready. For instance, Quinton's shot on the first ball. Yes, Quinny is see ball, hit ball, be aggressive, put bowlers under pressure, but that was not necessarily needed. Read the room, dude. Like, read the room. We're trying to save a test, or we're trying to win a test. It's not. We don't need you to counterpunch. The counterpunch had already been done. We had Pakistan on the ropes, and then we allowed them back in, and that was the disappointing thing from a senior player. I think to a certain extent today, I think the team was let down by the senior players in the way in which they played. I think I can't fault Aiden for chasing a wide one. I can't fault Temba also because that new ball was doing Shaheen Shah Afridi and Hassan Ali in that new ball spell were just unplayable. It was some really great fast bowling, and they would have bothered anybody in world cricket. So I can't fight it from that perspective. All I can say is the fact that Faf and Quinny couldn't carry it on. To a certain extent, everybody needs to pitch in, and that's the team element about it. It's about being able to understand the pressure, understand what you're coming into, and putting away your personal feelings, whatever it is, for the team. And I think that was kind of lost once Aiden's wicket fell, and then Quinny got that in the next ball. It kind of was like, okay, fine. Now the game's seemingly over because I didn't expect Vian Mulder to survive a spell of Yasir Shah. I didn't expect it. I kind of felt that from that point on, in as much as everyone would want Temba to farm the strike, 128 needed with Vian, Keshav, and George Linda, with the way South Africa batted, wasn't great. There's a stat about the amount of balls South Africa faced. I think it's the bottom three compared to how many balls Pakistan faced. It's chalk and cheese. But yeah, look, we'll talk about moving forward. But for me, I'm just disappointed that the senior players never put their hands up. Yeah.
Khalid, I didn't hear you. Did you ask me?
Yeah, it's up to you now.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear. I agree with everything that Paul said. It was always going to be a difficult series, and I was never going to be surprised if we didn't manage to lose it. But it's the fashion, it's the way that we lost today that is most concerning. You wonder if Quinton and company had bothered watching Rassie and Markham when they're batting. They showed the way to play. In Pakistan, you've got to play as late as possible. You've got to allow the ball to come to you. And when they came in from ball one, it was let's drive with a nice scoring ball. And that was not what the situation was calling for. So it was just the way that we lost really a very much of a concern. You told me before the series that Pakistan tail would outperform South Africa, and not just a little bit, but considerably. Not only in terms of balls faced, but in runs scored, and their fielding was going to be better than ours. I would have said there's no chance of that. Um, so the fact that those two areas are of huge concern going forward. There are positives, it's already been said. Timber's batting, Russie's batting, Markham's batting. They showed the way how to score runs in Pakistan. They showed the way forward. And again, and as Paul said, the senior players failed us. They let us down. Now, I really expected big things from Faf du Plessis at the series. I thought that this would be a perfect sort of swan song for him to really make a statement and show us his skill and his ability, especially against the spin bowling. But the fact that he's been very underwhelming was very disappointing. So overall, there are positives, especially with the batting guys that I mentioned, and the bowlers. The bowlers did well overall, but it's just the way we lost today, which is really disappointing.
Okay, Aditya, it's your turn now. From your perspective, I mean, we've been debating about it. We've been speaking at every single review show, saying how we should approach it. What was the most disappointing factor for you when it comes to South Africa's performance?
Look, we've talked a lot about the batting and how shot selection really needs to improve. But in this test match, I think we also need to be critical of the bowling, because you look at the margin that we lost by. We lost by 95 runs. Between 129 for 6, the bowlers let Pakistan get to 298. I think from, bowling the tail out has been a significant problem for the Proteas. The narrative has been about the batting in the subcontinent, and just generally batting collapses over a period of time. But if the team really needs to add more wins to that column, then the bowling needs to be reviewed as well. And no one's doubting the quality of the bowlers in South Africa, but perhaps it's strategy, perhaps it's implementation. Something is going wrong, that South Africa are allowing games to get away by not being able to bowl opposition tails out. And to me, I think Aiden was fantastic. Rassi was good as well. And of course, some of the batsmen let us down. Buff didn't perform, Quaid didn't perform. Temba was fantastic as well. But I think we do need to lay some responsibility at the hands of the bowlers too.
Yeah. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity just to have their say first. So let's just go, Aaron, with you.
Yeah, no worries. So before I go into South Africa, just a quick mention to Pakistan, because you have to give them a lot of credit. They're absolutely sensational in both test matches, and Poe rightfully, as you said, Afridi and Hassan Ali, absolutely unstoppable with that new ball and the reverse swing as well. Such a characteristic of Pakistan cricket, and yet they utilised it so beautifully, I thought, in this particular test match. And then, of course, with the batting as well, Mohammad Rizwan, that not completely took this game away. So, yeah, just quickly, Pakistan, well done. Congratulations for the 2-0 series win. They were definitely deserving of that 2-0 margin, 100% in my opinion. So with regards to South Africa, of course, again, I'll start with the positives. Aidan Markram, thought was absolutely brilliant. 108, really, he almost set the tone. He was like a bastion for that South African innings. I thought he played absolutely exceptionally, showed that he can play both with and against the spin, was playing on the front foot. His footwork was absolutely immaculate. So he gets a nice big tick. And of course, George Linder as well. To bowl like that with, wasn't it a dislocated pinky or something like that on his bowling hand, to come out there, at least show a bit of fight, a bit of valour, show a bit of courage as well. I was impressed with him. But again, it's the same old, isn't it? It's batting collapses coming up again and again and again. 7 for 34 is just staggering. That's like, that put me to shame as an England fan. And then, of course, the tail again. Empo said it last night on the show. what was it, like they're averaging about 50 odd against the tail. It's not good enough for an international caliber bowling attack. It's one of the worst in the world. So that is definitely an area that needs to be addressed by South Africa. Whether or not you do bring in Luto Sapumla, the man who can clean up the tail, showed it against Sri Lanka. Who knows? Who knows? But there definitely needs to be a better game plan with regards to these tail enders, because you cannot go into a test match and concede 70, 74 runs against batsmen from 9 to 11. That's costing this test match. Imagine if they would have decreased that to around about 20. You would have lost. You may have still lost this test match, but it would have been a lot more easier to get to the total. So yeah, overall disappointing from a South African perspective. Of course, massive for Pakistan. Historic victory, very famous victory. One will be celebrated for many, many years to come in Pakistan itself. But yeah, I feel like there does need to be a review. And yeah, it's been a bit of an eye-opening series at times for South Africa.
Yeah, Shay, you were very upset, especially when the fall of the wickets happened between obviously Aiden and Quinny particularly. Just give me your thoughts on your wrap-up quickly of what you thought went right or went wrong with South Africa, or what were you impressed by and not impressed by?
Well, I'm very impressed actually with obviously Aiden Markram scoring 100. And obviously Temba Boomer as well. I'm not sure if he's been mentioned yet by the other guests, but I thought Temba batted superbly today. I think he was the only one really, that top order, who got a really decent nut today. I thought he batted very well. It's a real shame because he obviously ran out of partners in the end. But yeah, his partnership with Aiden Markram, the problem for me was here, Holly, that even though obviously they looked very assured at the end of day 4, and even say with Temba and Markram there at the crease, I never felt at any one stage that South Africa were going to win this game like comfortably. I thought it was going to be really scraped across the line. I always felt, and I still feel, there's a soft underbelly to the side. Protea fire, my butt. I'm just not accepting at the moment. The reality is, South Africa have won 2 series of the last 7. Now, Port kindly enough submitted a stat today to us about the batting stats over the last 2 series. Sri Lanka at home. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Khalid. So if you can see here, now 5 people see, that's an anomaly because you take up the 199, he scored 63 runs in 5 innings, averaging around 12. So you can almost remove that. Temba obviously batted very well. I mean, I was actually very happy for him in a wider context because people hopefully now will shut up about Temba Boomer not deserving a place in the side. That guy, if anything, should be batting top 4 and allow him to take his place there for a certain amount of time. The problem is obviously they don't play test match now, do they, for a long time? Well, at the moment, I believe, next scheduled series is India at home, end of the year. But that's another big issue, really for South Africa to deal with at the moment. I thought Markram was superb. I thought, to be honest with you, the one flaw, I mean, we talked about Pakistan doing so well today with the bowling. I thought Babar Azam captained very well. I thought he kept the pressure on consistently. Even Markram was very well set. He kept 2 slips. He kept Golly in there as well. The only one step I thought was a small thing, really, is bringing forward Alam for that over before lunch and gifting that century to Markram, because it was me. I keep a gun bowler on and let him sit on 99 going into lunch. It didn't matter in the end, but I would have done that personally. He gave obviously 3 gimmies. They rotated to strike, and obviously Markram walks in 100. Everything's fantastic, and hopefully South Africa will build in the second session. It wasn't to be, but I just want to shout out Babar Azam as well as the bowling. I completely agree with Aaron. We must give give credit where credit's due. I thought Hassan Ali in particular was a superb. I mean, after the wickets of Aiden Markram and then Quincy the Cock, I wouldn't even go into that now because that's a whole another ball game with that. I mean, that's a nightmare at the moment. Everything that's happened I honestly I can go over 20 minutes about the whole Quincy the Cock captain for 4 test matches nonsense. I won't even start with that. But just in regards to, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Pakistan are a team that feed off energy. They're always like this. When the chips are down, they sink their heads. They get a couple of wickets. I'm not joking. For the older people on this panel, Shaheen Shah Afridi went from Alam Malali to Wazam Akram at those 2 wickets. He looked like a man possessed. As soon as the cut went out first ball, it was Shaheen Shah Afridi looked completely different bowler. I thought maybe he could have morphed into someone else. Because he looked a completely different prospect, and that's when he got Bavuma out with that fantastic ball just licking off. South Africa, to me, big problems there, losing 7 wickets to 33 runs in the manner they did, and I think that's why Babar Azam kept the pressure on because he knew the way South Africa are playing where they are at the moment in world cricket. You get 1, you can get 2 like that, and that's what happened today. That's what happened. And that's a big problem to address. Aaron's consistently talked about identity branded cricket. I agree. That needs to be really honed in now. And maybe this 9-month gap now between the next Tech series is actually a blessing in disguise. They can go away. There needs to be a change of some sort. I'm not saying I don't throw the baby out the bathwater, but there needs to be some element of change on that side, because the reality, it's not working. It's not working. 2 wins in 3 years. It's not working. Something has to change. The bowlers, I agree with Eats to a certain extent. And in the last match, 8-11 took 147 runs. That's in that first Test match. There is a problem with the tail. But you can't say that this isn't the best top 4 bowlers in the country. You might have we can't say that. I mean, Gee's on the sidelines. You can't tell me Sapamla's coming ahead of Ngidi right now. We can't. I don't believe you can say that. But you can definitely give argument to say, are these anymore the best top 6 batsmen in the country? Not with the plethora of riches that are sitting on the sidelines. Faf du Plessis is going to be 37 in October. It might be just time to say, you know what? Thank you for all the efforts. It's time to move on. They're cut back at 6 or even 7. Whoever thought about putting him at 5, I have no idea. This guy never had a technique at Test level to bat in a top order. Adi said, okay, I'll get to that in a second, but he never had a technique to bat in top order. You can see it from a mile away. He's out of form now. Yeah, I agree. It wasn't broke, but why do you need to fix it? Because obviously you're not trusting your top order batsmen to make the runs that, okay, the Cock's in form at 7, so I'll push him up the order when it was already working so beautifully at 7 for him, or even at 6. But you move him to 5. Obviously, I know he bats at 6 today, but he's just a guy out of form. I mean, his weight transfer was all off today. He's pushing hard at a ball. Why can't batsmen anymore leave a ball? Where's the element of a leave gone in Test cricket? A mate of mine, good friend of mine, Simon, who loves Test cricket, he always says to me, nothing better than the good leave. We don't see it anymore. I actually enjoy seeing a really good leave. And the Cock is, his shot today, I couldn't believe it. This is your time to shine. Today was a massive day for me, for South African cricket, to see what they were made of. And unfortunately, as a Proteas fan, I didn't like what I saw. So, yeah.
Excellent rant over there. I love it. I love every single point that you made. I think there's something that we're going to get into the debate. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring on a caller quickly. What I'm going to do with the callers I'm going to allow them to say their piece. They can have their little rant, and I'm going to give them about 30 seconds to a minute to say what they feel and what they thought about the game. And then we can discuss it openly as a panel. So first and foremost, I'm going to give Prashan a mention over here. Welcome to the show, Prashan. Just give us your insight. What is your thoughts on the game? Where do you feel South Africa went wrong, or what do you think can improve, etc.? I'm going to give you the floor to give your say.
Hi, Khalid, and hi, everyone. So I think that the performance in Pakistan was a big learning experience, especially for all the younger players. And since they haven't been there before, I think they did learn a bit. But obviously, you can see that the way that they played, they couldn't handle the spin, they couldn't handle even the pace bowlers. If you look at how Hassan Ali, with a pace bowler getting 10 wickets in Pakistan, that's a bit shocking. And also with the whole way of their way that they approach the game, the rash shots that they play, they're not willing to block it out and take it late into the game. And also if you look at just the way that the bowlers, even though we have quite a young bowling attack, just the way that we bowled and stuff, I think we could have learned from how the Pakistanis did bowl, and also the way in which they batted and stuff. So I felt that it was a good learning experience for us, and even though we didn't do to the best of our ability, I think there's a lot of learning that we can take on to the next series and stuff that we're gonna play in the future.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Prashant, for coming on the show. Thanks for giving your point of view. Guys, who wants to weigh in on that and what he said in his particular calling? I know, Paul, you must be itching.
Okay. Look, I do agree with him in terms of the fact that it was a baptism of fire for the younger guys. But the other question we need to ask ourselves is, they've traveled around the world. Most of this 11 went to Sri Lanka. Most of this 11 went to India. To a certain extent, they say the right things in the press conferences, but they don't. The application on the field is different to what we're being told, and that's where the question I'm asking is, who's duping who? Is it management? Is it the senior? Is it the players in terms of telling us the right things? But on the other hand, and sometimes you must believe the people for what they show you, not what they say. So I do agree that obviously yes, we didn't apply ourselves well at all in terms of Test cricket, because first innings are so important, and it goes to the lack of preparation. It goes to the lack of foresight and help, because normally when a team like Pakistan gives you 270, you would, before at the toss, if Baba Azam said I'll give you 270, if you're Quinton, you take that, because that's a winnable winnable option for you to be able to bat and win the test. And so for me, that's where the thing lies. And sometimes I have to look at the management and say, okay, guys, what do we try to do? How is it that these things that you're saying to us in the press conferences aren't being relayed out to the players? And then if it's not happening, then we need to figure out in the next however many months what the strategy is. When they come back to South Africa, Bitsang needs to sit with Graham, with Boucher and Nkwe, and they need to figure out what this thing is. Do we rip this team? I'd rather have lost this series having not played Faf, or having played a completely different top six, and given them an opportunity to play. That's okay, because we then know that you're rebuilding. You don't have to tell us you're rebuilding. We can see it, because but these guys have played. Temba's played 40 tests. Aiden's in the mid-20s. The only person who's played less than 10 tests in that top six is Rassi. And he came through somehow in this test. In the first test, he came through, lost his wicket, didn't kick on. Even in this one, he didn't kick on. He got a perler. Him and Hassan Ali have some sort of relationship that I don't understand. But that's where it's now time to take big swings as South African cricket. There's no longer time to play safe. Take the big swings. Take either drop whoever you want to drop, but give us some sort of a clear strategy and a plan to move forward. I don't mind losing tests if you have a plan and you putting it in and you're moving forward. Right now, it doesn't look like there's a plan. All it looks like is you've taken Otis Gibson's team, you've changed a few personnel here and there. You've given a debut to Rassi, but the bowling attack's largely similar, because I think Otis would have played Vian anyway, and he gave him a debut. And also, he would have played Anu, because Otis was loving pace. It's similar to Otis Gibson. You're playing Otis Gibson cricket, and that's the bother to me. I don't see the change in identity. I do see the aggressive nature, because you're losing your wickets, but I don't see it. It's not winning cricket. And that's where the issue comes. Do something.
Yeah. So this is something I really want to discuss, because I'm going to be doing an interview or a discussion later tonight at 8 again, with a very special guest that I want you guys to tune in for. He's going to be able to give us an understanding of South Africa's transition through the years. He's going to give us an understanding of what it was like back then, when Graham was captain, before that even, and right until now. And we're going to try to come up with some sort of idea of where to move forward. But I've got this amazing panel in front of me right now that I can do this with too. So, and especially Tim, because I want to get your insights onto on this particular case from a South African fan's perspective, as well as a South African cricket fan, just a cricket analyst and journalist as well. Obviously, there's been a talk about us moving forward with the transition and trying to trust a core group of players. Now, from performances over the last 2-3 years, you can say that Aiden, Dean, KG are and Quinton are the kind of the core group of players that you want to build this team around. Now, Andre Nokia is a newer bowler coming into the system. Lungi Ngidi hasn't played enough tests over the last couple of years to say that he is a certainty in the side. Then you've got Faf du Plessis that's aging now, and it's time for him now to maybe move on. Some people are saying, is it crazy to maybe think that now that you've have to put certain players in the team. I believe, from my perspective, that you need to pick players not only on the form, but on their mental capacity and that they've shown, their mental ability and their mental strength that they've shown. Certain signs that show that is when you put under pressure for your franchise and you dig your team out, whether you can concentrate for long hours at the crease in difficult conditions, whether you can bat, for example, against a new ball that is moving around and see it off and then hit runs when the ball is a little older. How you obviously play against spin. Now we've had an opportunity to see the way Rassie and obviously Aiden can play against spin. But if there are players waiting in the back end or waiting in the background that have shown that mental capability and that mental strength, isn't that a must that they must be in the side? Isn't it like you have to find space for them, even if it means maybe Quinton moving up the order, dropping the gloves, dropping the captaincy? I mean, I've had a discussion with some people, and they've maybe hinted at maybe because Quinton is such a X factor player. What can we call him? Eccentric player in a way. He's an electrifying type of player that you either get a good Quinny or you get a bad Quinny. And he's not going to change the way he plays based on the match situation. He's going to come out there and play the same way. As soon as he tries to change his game, you can see that he fails doing it. It's very difficult for him to change his game. He needs to play how he feels. So because that's kind of a liability at the bottom of the order, because if you play him at 7 and he loses wicket, you're going to maybe lose the match most likely. Otherwise, you need one of your tail enders to put on a massive score, which is like highly unlikely in any team. You can't rely on that. Maybe putting him, opening the batting, dropping the gloves, opening the batting, saying, go and play your game freely against the new ball. Oh, you're a left-hander as well with Aiden Markram. Open the batting with Aiden. Maybe say, okay, guys, right, this is the time we're going to move forward and we're going to think about the future and this is what we're going to do. Give him the free rein to play his game so that if he loses his wicket, it's okay. We still have guys there that can maybe solidify the game, slow things down and play their side, maybe as an option. But Tim, I want to know what you would do if you were the selector, because we've been getting mixed signals over here, I feel. On the one hand, I was told by Victor Mpensang that he was going to think about the future and give young guys an opportunity. On the other hand, we're picking 35-year-olds and 37-year-olds and expecting and doing that on that end, and then taking boys as water boys along on test tours and on T20 tours and on ODI tours. So I want to know what you would do. If you were the selector right now and you were the coach of this Proteas lineup, what would you do with your top 6? Because it's there that we are struggling. It's our batting that is failing us.
Okay, the openers are fine. I would stick with the openers. I would say thanks very much, Faf du Plessis. You've given us a wonderful career. Time to go. Keegan Peterson has been waiting on the wings for an awful long time now. He's been travelling with the side, itching to go since the last time England was there with the Test series. So he has to come in. I would not do anything with Quinton. I would leave Quinton at 6, relieve him of the captaincy, and I would put if there is space there, I would also be thinking of trying to fit in a Kyle Verreynne maybe. I would probably only make, if I'm gonna pick 2 players in that top 6 to come in as fresh blood, it's going to be Keegan Peterson and Kyle Verreynne. I know there's a lot of talk about, our first-class system isn't so enough. Well, if you don't give those guys a chance, you'll never know. You'll never know if they're good enough unless you give them a chance. This is the perfect time to say to a couple of people, right, this is your chance. You've got 12 test matches, 15 test matches. Make your mark. Give them the chance to make a statement. The status quo, as you said, just isn't working. The status quo is not working. And I always felt that, as has already been said, making Quinton do all these other things was just a disaster. It was a disaster waiting to happen. He's a very important player in that side. but you've got to just allow him to do what he does best, and that's dominate bowlers. But he is not going to dominate bowlers in the top 5. He's going to dominate bowlers in 6 or 7. It doesn't matter. Either or is irrelevant. But you've got to give whoever you pick, you've got to give them the right jobs, the right positions to play and perform where they can succeed. And I don't think that's been happening in recent years. But this is the time to start thinking about, bringing in the two of the best players in domestic cricket at the moment. That's what I'll be doing going forward.
Because it's a kind of a thought process of whether you pick for the future and just say, like Umpo said, have your identity, and then you, with the fans, understand and speak to the fans and say, look here, guys, we are going to be building a team over the next 2 years. We're going to give them this Test Championship to prove themselves. I think this should have been happening already, though. I've been saying this for the last 3 years already. I mean, now we wait for us to be.
It should have been happening when AB de Villiers retired. When AB de Villiers retired, that's when a real sea change needed to happen. It needed to go, right, okay, who's the next best batsman? Proper outgoing batsman. Boom, put him in straight away. But we've had muddled thinking and hanging on to people for far too long. We haven't really been in, as you said before, we haven't really been in transition. We've just been picking the same 11, bar 1 or 2 exceptions, for 2 years, and we haven't really gone anywhere. So we have to actually make a change. You can't just keep picking the same 12 players and expecting different results, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they're too scared to give youngsters opportunity or give youngsters a chance to prove themselves. I think, the only way you learn, the only way you're going to learn is out there in the middle, no matter how good your domestic system is. Like, the only way you're going to learn is against how you can deal with pressure, because Test cricket is the only, as a batsman, is the only place you're going to get 3-4 world-class bowlers bowling at you on either ends. You can get a little lucky in domestic cricket where you got one guy that's maybe not that great, that's maybe just filling in a spot, and you face him and you can smash him to the boundary and up your scoring rate. But they need to look for specific talents. I'm talking about they need to look at specific qualities or that a player has, and then pick on that, not just on stats and not just on what the person's doing on the field. It's also got to do with the way they approach their game, when they've come into an innings, how they've affected a game, in what situation are they performing the way they're performing. And you can't give a youngster a one Test series and expect him to make miracles and then just drop him afterwards. If you've identified certain qualities within that player that you think suits your style of play and identity that you want to play with, stick with him. Stick with him until he gets it right. I mean, I think it was very harsh to drop Zubair Hamza the way they did. I'm not saying that, yes, he's the next best thing or whatever the case may be, but the way they dropped him, I feel, was a bit wrong, I feel, and in the manner that they did. If they saw him as the next generation and replacement for Amla, back him as that. Let him go through the tough period and find his form. That's the only way you can go forward. We've got a super chat, and thank you for the super chat. I just want to bring it up on the screen, and whoever wants to put up their hand and answer it. Low first innings total, bad fielding, lack of identity is where we lost it. But again, I'm happy with the captain, Aiden. So what do you guys think about Aiden taking the captaincy, building the team around Aiden Markram? Paul?
I think I'm the only one against it in the whole of the country, but you know why? There were 2 captains that were batting today in that first session. The country's going to go with Aiden captain, Temba vice captain. I say switch it up. Temba's shown us the character throughout the years that he can take this. He's a franchise captain. He's won 4-day series domestically. He's won T20 series domestically. He's the guy who can take this team forward. But obviously everyone's going to go with the guy who's won the World Cup, which is fine with me. That's okay. But I do think Temba's the guy for you. You'll thank me later if you do it, but I don't think you will. So, yeah.
Yeah, you see, then I would also, okay, this is a very bold statement now. Then I would also have Enoch as coach. because Enoch and Temba's identity and relationship is ridiculously good. They understand each other very, very well. And I feel that if Enoch had to pick a captain, he would probably go with maybe Temba Bavuma as his first pick. But is Temba Bavuma's, I'm going to have to ask this question because this is a question that fans are going to ask. And is Temba Bavuma's place solidified in this team? I'm going to give it to someone else because we know what Umpo thinks. I know what you think, Umpo. I'm going to ask them and I'm going to let the others also weigh on it.
I'm sure Umpo knows this. Before this series, he would not have been in my 11. But on this series, this bowling lineup, he has answered a lot of questions. So he has absolutely cemented his place in that top 5. I like him at 5. I like the role that he plays. I like the way that he played, in particular the second innings. I thought the second innings, like as far as the second innings, was probably the best I've ever seen Temba Bavuma bat. When you take into consideration the pressure, the situation, the conditions, I really thought it was an extremely and a very impressive performance with him with the bat. He's, for me, unquestionably cemented his place in the top 5.
I'm gonna go Aiden. I think Aiden and Temba as a combination. Me personally, I just think Aiden is the way he speaks, the way he talks, the way he cares about other players, the way he thinks about it. His knowledge on the other players coming through the system as well. His knowledge of the guys that are playing domestic cricket and below. He keeps an eye out on that. He's constantly asking about that. I feel that he knows better than anybody else what it is like to be a youngster coming into a setup facing the difficult conditions. Batted well against Australia. He's batted well against now in Pakistan. It's a nice transition to go for someone young and then build a young team around him. But I feel then at the moment, Temba, after the amount of tests that he has, I feel that we need to kind of concentrate the top order with our experienced players. Dean, Aiden, and Rassi and Temba need to be at the top, higher up in the order, so we can bring youngsters into the system that can take over. I think that's what needs to happen over here. Okay? Get a guy get a younger guy. Like I think Reinhard van Tonder, not just because of the way he's batted and he's in his record. I think his mentality is just unbelievable. The mental strength of that boy is something that you can't teach, you can't coach. It's something that's inherent in him. He has a fighting spirit, like we talk about in South Africa. He's a future captain as well. He's captain of his under-19 team. He's been in difficult situations. I mean, he led that his under-19 team had a lot of problems, and he led them quite decently in that World Cup. Okay, we could have done better. We haven't won a World Cup since obviously Aiden and them. We haven't really done well since Aiden and them won it. But building a team around that core group of winners, KG, Aiden, and those guys, and then building a team around them is what I feel we need to do. Lungi's part of that group and ilk of player as well, I think. And I don't see Temba sitting in front of a packed crowd of journalists asking him questions and not being upset about it or showing that he's how he feels. I think Aiden is the way how calm Aiden is that it was just bring the whole level of everybody this down and calm. And there's no target on Aiden's back as there is at the moment with Temba. He has a massive target on his back, which I don't like, which needs to be removed, because I mean he's shown his fighting spirit in this particular test series. He's shown his caliber and what he can do, but I think he needs more responsibility. He told us this in a feature in a previous issue. I think 2 issues ago, he spoke to us in Cricket Fanatics magazine, and he told us about this responsibility that he feels he needs to take more responsibility in the side. So I feel he should give him that responsibility. You can leave Quinton down there, but there needs to be Calvin Reiner needs to come in the setup. From a mental point of view and from a mental strength point of view, he needs to come in here. I think that they need to give Quinton, towards the end of his career, a full opportunity to think about his batting alone. If he wasn't the keeper of South Africa, would you drop him? That's the question. With the form that he's been on, with the jump on form, would you drop him if he didn't have the gloves? Who wants to answer this?
I'll go for it just because I wanted to just bring up something beforehand, to be honest. Because we're mentioning the likes of Keegan Peterson, mentioning the likes of Renaud van Tonda, Carl Verena. I just wanted to ask this to all five of you, and of course the viewers out there. Who would you actually drop? Because we're mentioning there about this skeletal structure in this South African team. You're going to keep Aidan Markram. You're going to build the team around him, so his place is secure. You're going to keep Dean Elgar because he's been one of the most consistent performers at the top of the order in world cricket. Then you're going to keep Rassie van der Dusen because he's relatively inexperienced in the test arena by itself, hasn't even played double-digit tests yet. So most people are going to be leaning towards him, keep him in there. You're probably going to keep Quinton de Kock in there because he's one of the world's best number 7 batsmen. He averages over 50, which is absolutely preposterous. And then, of course, we spoke about Temba there, who is like the warrior within that batting lineup. So just while we're all talking about the likes of Renaud van Tonda, Carl Verena, Keegan Peterson, all of these fantastic young players, and as Shay rightfully said, this plethora of young talent in South African domestic cricket right now, who would you guys actually drop? How would you actually, I don't know, set up that batting lineup to suit South Africa best in Test cricket?
Can I answer this one quickly, guys? Okay, so I'm gonna go and be very bold over here in my answer. I will drop Rassie and Faf. Now I know that you guys might say that I'm totally crazy. Rassie is incredible. I'm not denying that. But I think Rassie is a perfect number 3 for South Africa in white ball cricket. We need him more in white ball cricket than we need him in Test right now, I feel. I think we need to build a winning mentality in Test cricket, and it's going to take some time to grow. My point is, when Rassie starts converting these 50s into 100s, he's going to be how old? When is it going to start to happen? Because we need him to be a 100 scorer, in big 100s we're talking about. I want him to go deep, go 200s. That's what I want to see Rassie do. He hasn't really done that at domestic cricket. I'm talking double centuries, big set double centuries. Reina van Tonda is already doing it now at the age of 20. He's done it at semi-pro level, done it at school. He's done it now. He's doing it in franchise cricket, in tough. So I would bring him into the system, and I'll even move Keegan to 4 maybe, and have 3, and have Reynard at 3, or swap Reynard and Keegan around. One of those two come in. But for now, to grow that team, give more responsibility to the likes of Temba Bavuma, drop Faf, drop Rassie, they are of an older age, and bring in these younger guys and let them grow as a unit. Because I feel with the leadership of Aiden, because Aiden will then feel more confident to tell Reynard or Keegan, this is what you need to do, follow my lead, than tell a Faf, who is always looked up to. So that also throws off certain things. Like Faf also holds responsibility in that dressing room. Everybody turns to Faf in a difficult time. He's such a brilliant captain. Now, Faf needs to be in the setup. Faf needs to be amongst the players. They can bring him with on the tour. I think there's enough. There's a spot available for him to be there as a help to the rest of the side, to give his influence in that team. And you don't want to take a 37-year-old on a tour all the time. But I think when they prepare for tours, Faf needs to be in and around. He needs to be somehow involved with the nurturing of the next captain, with the nurturing of the next players that are coming into the system, teaching them the ropes and showing them the ropes. Maybe moving then Bavuma. But I think you can leave Bavuma where he is. You can leave Quinton where he is. But I honestly do think that it's Dean Elgar, it's Aidan Markram for the next couple of seasons. Because what's nice about it is Reina van Tonda is also very adaptable. He's a guy that can open. He's showing that he can open the batting too down the line. I'm not saying I believe he's a number 3 specialist and he should bat at number 3. Keegan can bat at 4. You can have Temba Bavuma at 5. You can have Quinton at 6 or 7. But I believe that rather bringing in Calvareno obviously as the 7. I want to ask you. That's kind of where I'm going with that. But what I want to put in front of you guys is Simon Lewis said last night on our stream, and I did tell you were there to witness it, where he said South Africa at the moment are searching for the next Jock Cullis, this next all-rounder that we're looking for. And he doesn't feel that the standard of all-rounders in this country is high enough to be able to build your team around an all-rounder. Like a Ben Stokes can bat and score you centuries and take you a 5 for 2. You got Hardik Pandya that can do something very similar. There's so many. If you're going to build a team around an all-rounder, they need to be doing that consistently. He feels that we should bat with 7, right? And then pick your 4 bowlers. That was his suggestion to South African cricket. If that's the case, then there's space for Carl, there's space for Reina van Tonda, and there's space for Kagan Peterson to come into that squad, then you need to drop Rassie, you need to drop Faf and move on with him. Let them be a part of our white ball cricket, where we need experience there to grow for tournament World Cup. For World Cup in 2023 and a World Cup in T20 cricket, we need that experience more there than we need it in Test cricket. If you've got experienced guys in the dressing room teaching these guys, you don't need the experience on the pitch if they're not going to perform. Because I feel that the only way you pick Faf du Plessis is if he's scoring double centuries and centuries every 3-4 games. Like you need, or every 3-4 innings. He needs to be really, really on top of his game. He needs to be batting like Joe Root. And that's how he needs to bat if he wants to be in the side. He needs to bat like Steve Smith if he needs to be in the side of that age. Otherwise, give another guy an opportunity to learn from this, because we know that the Reinhardt, we know that a Keegan, we know that that ilk of a player might be scoring centuries regularly in a year's or two's time. That's my point of view. Have a go, guys, whoever wants to step in. Aditya hasn't said something for a while. I'm just going to start with Aditya, and then you guys can chip in afterwards.
Just two things. One is that, see, we're talking about having Keegan Peterson, Reinhard van Tonda, Kyle Verreynne in, and I know that right now, I guess, emotions are high because, we've lost a series and, the Proteas haven't done what they're capable of. So I guess the natural impulse is, let's replace the existing players. My question is that if KP, Reinhard, and Kyle Verreynne don't perform, what are you going to do then? And I say this as an Indian fan who's seen what it's like to have an environment where the scrutiny is entirely on MS Dhoni in the last 4 years. Everyone's like, when is MS Dhoni going to retire? Question was there with Sachin Tendulkar as well. When is Sachin Tendulkar going to retire? Because if you don't have, if you say that, these guys should retire, have replacements, but then the replacement doesn't perform for a year and a half, what do you do then? It's not like your team has made progress. So I think once, the emotions are settled and I guess the team management is thinking a bit more clearly with time on their hands, they should look to blood these youngsters that we've talked about, but I don't think we should think about, massive chopping and changing, because the core of the team is good, the core of the team is talented. It's just about executing game plan, and eventually they will come good. Secondly, my question is about Quinton de Kock. We've talked a lot about Quinton de Kock's potential, and we see him as a see-ball, hit-ball sort of player. I think the team management has got to demand more out of Quinton de Kock. I don't think we can excuse a rash shot game after game saying that, well, that's just the way Quinton is. I don't think that's good enough in international cricket. To me, Quinton de Kock is the next Adam Gilchrist. To me, he fits that bill. Adam Gilchrist was an attacking player too, but he ended his career averaging 47 in Test cricket with 1700s. That's what Quinton de Kock should be doing. And, just to see him sort of move between 5, 6, and 7 is a bit disappointing. So I think there needs to be a game plan for Quinton, and I would like to see him take a bit more responsibility. That doesn't necessarily mean, defending the ball when you can hit it, but it means that, he needs to turn up with a few more 50s, a few more 70s, if not hundreds and 150s at least.
But then also he needs to be given the opportunity to be in the situation that Adam Gilchrist found himself in on a regular basis. When Adam Gilchrist was batting at 7, 12, I think he got 12 centuries at number 7. 10 of them were in a situation of strength where Australia had 250 plus on the board. Like today's situation was the perfect situation for Quinny. He didn't perform. But it's once in a blue moon that happens, where South Africa has this amount of runs on the board and Quinton comes in with runs on the board and he can display his natural game, can essentially push us to 400, 500, 600. That should be Quinny's role at number 7 if he's going to play number 7 and he's going to bat there. But there has never been given the opportunity to be able to showcase that ability, because we're always in a situation where we're 189 for 5, we 120 for 5, we 95 for 5 in Hobart. But what the hell, man? 86 for 5, I think it was in Hobart in Australia. He came out there and saved the test match for us. So he's always been put into that situation. We've got a guy that can do that job too in Calvarena. If it's Carl at 6 and Quinny at 7, that's a combination that's dangerous. That's a combination that I'll be scared of, because you're bringing in a guy at 6 like Carl who can bat exceptionally and absorb the pressure, who already told me on multiple occasions, I perform better when the chips are down, when there's 5 down, 6 down, because people expect me to fail. So because people expect me to fail, all I do is go play my natural game. What is his natural game? Looking for the gaps, rotating the strike, taking the pressure off his opposition batsman. The reason George Linder scored that 100 for the Cobras was because Carl took a lot of pressure off him, allowed George to go on the other end, punish bad balls, while he was rotating the strike and building an innings and building the team, putting the team in a strong position. You need to think like that strategically when you're going to pick players. Shay, I want you to continue, but I first want you to answer the super chat. Thanks a lot, Dex, for another super chat. You've been awesome in the comments. Maybe it's not a question because I haven't read it yet. Aiden has to be the next captain, and what about Rassi for vice captain? I think he is perfect number 3. Crawley for the Burns any day of the week. Okay, so that's a statement as well as. So I'm gonna let Aaron talk about that particular last part, but I'm gonna let you have your say first, Shay, about what I had to say. There was something I wanted to add to that, but it will come to me a little later.
Is it about this point here from Dex? Yeah, Khalid. About the you mentioned.
No, you can go. I'm gonna let Aaron comment on that part because he's actually talking to Aaron directly. So,
well, the first part I think's opened up. I mean, I would say, on social media, I haven't seen a witch hunt on an individual player like I have seen against Temba Bavuma for some time. And Paul's comment about Bavuma being the captain. What I would say is, obviously, Khalid, you've commented on and I've heard you repeat this actually on multiple shows about the mentality and how important in Test cricket. I completely agree with you. I think no one can question Temba Bavuma's mentality because there's so many people, and you mentioned yourself, there's a target on his back that want him to fail. If you go on the social media the past 5 years, you see it. There's so many people who want him to, and I'm obviously he's aware of this. He's actually had private conversations with my uncle in Cape Town on multiple occasions. And he's, I won't too much detail on camera, but I am aware of how strong mentally Temba Bavuma is. I don't think it's necessarily a bad shout to make him captain. My problem would be is I feel like a large section of the Proteas fans would say that he's been picked on opportunity rather than merit, to coin Paul's phrase about South African cricket. And that just puts more pressure on him, an even bigger target. But I don't think it's a bad shot. My personal opinion would be for Aiden Mark to take over. I think he's a heir apparent. I also think that he kind of fits in with every section of players, shall I say, every demographic. I remember in Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, I think it was Pretoria, Sapamla, I think I was at the back end of he took the tail out. And I saw the way Markham embraced Sapamla, completely instinctive. He was absolutely jubilant. Like he came back after obviously initially being quite difficult in his opening spells, and I felt like this guy really knows what to be like to captain a South African side in today's era, which I think is important to know. This it's not. I think people as outsiders like Aaron, Edith to a certain extent, myself. There's obviously a much wider context of selection in South African cricket, which we are not fully aware of. We don't live there. We don't have to embrace it every single day. We just see it in social media, etc. But that is a critical part, and it's a central component of society in that country, and that must be analysed when you're picking even sporting teams. So anyway, that's probably for another conversation again. But my personal opinion was Markham. If you want to pick Bavuma as vice captain, I'd be fine with that. Like I said, I think this guy needs a run. He's been shunted up and down the order. He's batted. I think he's even opened the batting at one point a few years ago against India, and he's batted down to 6. That's unfair on him. I think it's been the treatment of Bavuma. I think it's been unfortunate. I do believe at the beginning the reason for this was they were trying to give him every opportunity to make runs so he can justify his selection in the beginning. But I think on talent alone, he's got excellent first class records in over the Lions. I wouldn't be against if he was picked as captain, but I just feel like that'd be like, oh well, they would give him Temba the captaincy because, and you know what, that's the reason. I think that's unfair. But I think it would happen. I won't mention about Aaron's comment, the comment that's made to Aaron. That's fine. I can happily deal with it as a sorry fan about Rory Burns all day, mate. But I'll leave it to Aaron. Just regards to your 7-4 strategy that Simon Lewis cited yesterday. The problem with that is, first of all, there's so much more cricket being played nowadays across the world that, for example, to have 4 bowlers, which KG Nokia would be a part of in particular, they play so much cricket outside of South Africa anyway that I'd be worried that, and obviously the 3 format bowls as well, that I'd be worried that they would actually break down. And I'm not necessarily thinking that's the best way to go. I also feel like it's really quite harsh on Vian Mulder. I actually think he's a very good bowler. I think his first card record reads like 38 with the bat and about 25 with the ball. And I'm not saying he's the next Jacques Callis. Hope I got that right on Paul. Pronounce that right, Jacques Callis. I'm not Jack Callis. But Jacques Callis, I feel like he can bat at 6. I think he's a very capable batsman. I think today he quit himself very well. And I'm sure he'd be at the end. He just went for it with a big hoik. What would you expect him to do? But I think I mentioned on here, Khalid, how talented I think that boy is. He's just turned 23. I think you allow his opportunity for someone like him to grow in the international game. He's played his trade for the Lions. He's done obviously well there, as you mentioned before. But I think he very much deserves a spot. And I think also, if you're going to have 4 bowlers, a 7-4 strategy, your 4 bowlers need to be gun bowlers, absolute gun bowlers. And I believe there's still a question mark over the third seamer and to a certain extent over the spinner about if Mirage can do it. Test series in, test series out, home and away. Obviously, his home series is in South Africa. It's not the most spin-friendly wickets, but he's played so well for the Dolphins for a number of years now. He's been a stalwart for them. He did in the opening round, the championship fixtures, for Dolphins. He bowled 50 overs that first game in 1 innings. But I'm still not convinced that 4, if you were to go with that, would be the right strategy. I do completely agree with Hallie in terms of Faf and Van der Dusen would be the 4 guys. I think Faf is, where you want to bring him as a consultant or not, I don't know. I feel like there's so much scar tissue with Faf to perceive in the last 18 months that maybe it's time to kind of just let him go away for a while. If you want to stay in the white ball game, fine. But I feel like you need to kind of out with the old him and the new with 1 or 2 players and maybe move on. I also think that applies. It's not really been mentioned as much. It's been touched upon, I think, here. But Boucher and Inkwe, it's how much of a rope does Boucher get here? I mean, I appreciate we stick with him for now, but I think at some point the questions must be asked. Never mind how he's appointed and how the whole thing played out, but I don't think he should be given unlimited rope because of what he did as a player. I think eventually you got to say, well, your results need to reflect, where the team is, because I do think the team is slightly better than it's performing at the moment, and I think Boucher has something to do that as well. What else? I think there's so many points I could talk about, but I think that's pretty much it. I don't know, Alec. I'll probably go for an hour and 20, so I'll probably wrap it up there, mate. But if you want me to answer that last point here, Aaron, I'm happy to do so. Unless you want to go for it, mate. To be fair, Dex did pay for this. I think you should answer it.
Oh, I think we could have done that both, to be honest, Shay, seeing as you're a Surrey fan. But yeah, that comment, Zach Crawley over for Rory Burns any day of the week. To be honest, I like them both. I think for the moment, Rory and Sibley, they just complement each other. It's so strange. They're both so unorthodox with their techniques. I actually think that they offer an eclectic mix of attributes at the top of the order for England. So for me personally, I quite like that dynamic. With that being said, though, we keep on mentioning about Aidan Markram being the heir apparent. I feel like that's what Zach Crawley's position in this England team is. Unfortunately, he's injured. He got a wrist injury before the first Test match in Chennai. But I feel like we'll put him in at 3, let him hone his craft there, and then we'll make him an opener in the future alongside the Lord himself, Don Sibley.
Can you answer this one too, Aaron? Because it's also an England-related question, and it's kind of advice to us as well. Thank you for the super chat, Tato, again. How is England managing their rotation? Can't we follow?
Well, that's an interesting question. So with regards to our rotation, at the moment, it's about bio-bubbles and obviously mental fatigue. So what we've done, we're going to rest Joss Buttler. He's going to play this first Test match, and then he's going to miss the rest of the series. The likes of Johnny Bairstow, Mark Wood and Sam Curran are also going to slot back into the squad at some point. So basically what our rotation policy is, we're keeping these guys fresh. So with regards to bowlers as well, we're rotating bowlers in and out. So we saw that in the Sri Lanka series. Anderson and Broad, for example, those two are in particular are being rotated pretty much by game-on-game basis. So with regards, can South Africa follow? That's a very, very difficult question. because they do have the talent. We keep on mentioning this domestic talent, and they do have an embarrassment of riches. The likes of Van Tonda, Verena, Keegan Peterson. You could even bring in a Peter Milan if you're desperate for an opener as well. So they could, in theory. It's just about whether or not they will, because it's a bit different with England, who have come off the back of a fantastic 2020. We're unbeaten in Test series. We've done really well this year. Fantastic start in Sri Lanka 2-0. So it's a bit different. England can almost afford to. They've got that rope. You can cut them a bit of slack if they lose a game here or there. Whereas with South Africa at the moment, because you aren't in the same vein of form, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Because if you do bring in these young guys and you bring in these rotation bowlers, the likes of Luto Sapomla, for example, and Geedy, if you replace Rabada and Norkia and South Africa lost the test match, you can imagine the reaction. So I feel like I don't think they can follow it like for like, but they will have to at some point due to the nature of biosecure cricket.
Yeah, I just want to share a quick story about Aiden, because on what Shay said about Aiden, and this is the last thing that I will say, is what shows his character. And you were talking about his character, where he hugged Sapamla, for example, and after he took those wickets. I did an interview, an exclusive interview with him at the Mzansi Super League, and it was the first time with the Paul Rocks. And it was around about the time when Zubair Hamza was knocking on the door for Test cricket. And a lot of people were speaking about Zubair maybe taking a position or taking over from Amla. I met Aiden, up with Aiden, we were walking. This is off-camera conversation, but I don't think it's anything that he'll be upset that I say. And he told me, he asked me, the first question he asked me is, he obviously greeted me and everything and whatever. I'm not going to talk about that, but I mean, then he told me, the first question he asked me was, how's Zubi? And is he doing all right? So I'm like, and I explained, because I told him, yes, Zubi's doing well, he's playing well, he's in form, and whatever the case may be. He's like, yeah, because I believe in him. He must, I believe in this boy's, in his ability. And he's saying this about a peer, someone that's similar age of him, that is a competitor from another club. And then we sat down in their hut, players' hut, and it was him and a couple of other players. And I went away and I came back into a conversation, and he was talking up Andrik Nokia. Did you see this bowler? Yeah, so he's fast, like quick. Did you see that wickets? He was talking up Andrik Nokia about how well he's bowling for the Warriors at the time, because Andrik was also faced a lot of injuries, so he wasn't really in the scene really when Aiden was playing domestic cricket for the Titans, for their cricket really. At the periods, they missed each other sometimes. So he was talking up Aiden and listening about and talking about Andrik and saying these great things about Andrik and saying about what the great talent the youngsters are. And that's the type of person Aiden is. He's not afraid to talk about other guys that are doing well and asking about how they're doing, because his whole mindset is the team. It's not him. You saw today's reaction. We've seen other players, I'm not going to mention names because I don't like to slate players. We've seen other players get centuries in losing positions and walk off with a big smile on their face and showing their bat to the crowd and being all happy about it and that they got their century and walk off. Aiden was disappointed with that because he knew he put the team in a bad position by losing his wicket the way he did. That is the type of passion I want to see from a captain going down the line. That's the type of passion I want to see from a player down the line. And to him to show those signs at such a young age is phenomenal. And that's why I think that he should be the next captain. But that's by all means, that's my final point that I want to make. I'm just going to give you guys, do you guys want a final say? Paul, you haven't spoken in a while. Aditya and Tim, do you guys want to have a final say? Let's go around and let's have a quick 20-second final say from everybody.
So on a final note, I think to answer the whole Temba Aiden thing, whoever they choose, it must come from a backing from Graham Smith and Mark Boucher saying that this is the man we choose. It's not going to work if you make Temba captain and you just say Temba's captain. You need to build the wall in front of Aiden and Temba to say that no matter what's going to happen, he's the man we choose for however many years. And you can ask, you can do whatever you want, but the answer will always be, this is our guy. The second thing that I want to say is, and I think we didn't speak about it, from a strategy point of view, the selectors need to figure out how many runs they want from the top 6 and how they're going to get it. Because essentially, you need to teach this team with the kids, whoever it is, whoever's in this 11, how to win a test match. So the first thing is sit down with a piece of paper and say, who are the best guys who are going to get me 300, 400 plus runs? or even if before you get to Quinton. And if you need a seventh batsman, you see that you might need a seventh batsman, add a seventh batsman. If not, then you need to figure out and you need to tell the guys and have a clear role definition as to what's going on, how many runs you expect them to do. If it's 50 opening stand, which I think is fair, if you want 150 to 200 runs between the second wicket partnership and the fourth wicket partnership, those are the type of things that need to be discussed. And that's how you build a brand and identity. So when guys go out, they know what they need to do. And then if you tweak it inside the game, that's how you do it. But until this team learns how to win test matches, we're not going to go anywhere. Make whatever changes you want to make, drop Timber, drop Rassie, drop whoever you want to drop, but make a big swing, make a call. That's what I want. I want you to say we're going left. If we're going left, we're going left. And we'll stay left for 10, 15 test matches. And if you want to give guys, you need to give young guys an opportunity, 10 to 15 test matches. That's it. And that's all I want. I want a road. Show me your road, and we will follow you, even if you're taking us over a cliff.
Tim.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with all the things that Paul said. One thing we haven't brought up is that whatever squad we bring in, what Paul? No,
he just wants to leave.
Whatever squad we pick, whatever squad of 15 for whatever series, wherever we're going in the country, we have to have a better backup staff. You cannot go to Pakistan without a batting coach. It cannot happen. You cannot go to a country which you have never been to before as a squad and not have a batting coach. The squad has to have individuals that it can go, right, I'm going to go and speak to so-and-so and this person and that person. They've got to have a good backup staff. This South African side is in desperate need of a batting coach, permanent one, not one that is in for 3 weeks and gone, a permanent batting coach with them all the time and a mental coach. This South African side, more than anything, is struggling from a mental point of view. The talent is there. Talent is undeniable. But mentally, I think a lot of the players are struggling on a lot of areas. We need to have a backup staff. So whoever Cricket South Africa pick, it has to have better individuals that we have had in the last little while. Otherwise, yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Aditya?
Yeah, I hope once the emotions have died down a bit, all the team management can get together and have a conversation that has obviously the best interests of South African cricket. But I hope they make sensible decisions. Ones that aren't rash, because I don't want that to be a situation where a knee-jerk reaction leading to a bunch of players being dropped and then replacing them with youngsters who may not be equipped to deal with international cricket. I don't want that to happen. So that's one thing. But I totally agree with Tim. I was surprised that South Africa didn't have a batting coach with them in Pakistan as well, and certainly a sports psychologist would help too. So all in all, it's been a difficult series loss, and we hope that the T20 series goes in South Africa's favor. But things may not be as good as they seem, but things are also not as bad as they seem. So stay optimistic, fans.
Spot on. Oh, do you want me to go next, Harley? Sorry.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, I agree with Diddy there. There is still a bit of optimism. You're not rock bottom of the Test Championship at all, but there do need to be necessary changes implemented. And yeah, all I'm going to say, guys, is bring on the T20I series. Cannot wait for that. Got some fantastic players in action on both sides. Fingers crossed. I'll keep them crossed for all the Proteas fans out there. Give us all a nice boost. But yes, been a fantastic show today and very much enjoyed it, boys. Thank you very much.
And over to Shay for his marathon.
One thing I will say about this team is not in rebuilding phase. You can't say if you're rebuilding if you've got 4 guys in your top 6 over the age of 30 years old. It's. I think well, I agree with you to a certain extent. I think he's trying to say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't believe anyone on this panel is saying that, to be honest. I just think there needs to be tweaks to the side and not accepting mediocrity, which is what South African fans have faced for too long. They've obviously been blessed with a fantastic test team for the last 15 years. Those days are gone. I appreciate that. But now is a time to get South Africa back up the top of the tree and to where they, not saying they rightfully belong, but they should be more competitive on a more regular basis. There is problems in this side. It needs to be addressed. And I would say it starts the administration down. There needs to be a real focus on the brand of cricket they want to play. There needs to be enforced changes for the long term. You simply can't ignore the fact that there is problems with the side. It's going with this. If we see the same side play in the next test series, which Aditya tells me is on July 13th, I think I'm going to rip my hair out. And trust me, there's a lot of it. You know, they need. I
said Fox's birthday is on July 13th, not the next series, mate.
Oh, okay. Oh, right, there you go. You see. All right, there you go. You should have answered the comments, mate. What did I knew that? Okay, so he's. See, so the next series is going to be, I thought, at the end of the year against India. You see, which is even worse. That's the problem that South Africa really face. And that's someone commented actually saying that England have far more test matches so they can allow the rotation, allow people to build up consistency in test cricket. The problem with South Africa is they just play so few test matches, you know, and it's so few far between. That's the real issue at hand with the Australian tour. You know, obviously from a financial point of view, of course, it's a loss, but just these players need to play games. And the problem is now you've had a bad loss here on today, and now you've got to wait another 9 months for your next test. It's just not. It's just not good. But I just want to see a couple of enforced changes. I think the fans as well. They need to be as vocal as possible and need to enforce their position on this. They need to stipulate where they stand and won't stand for this. You know, they expect. In my opinion, they should expect better, especially when you've got so much quality and class in the first class system.
It's a perfect ending to it. Thanks a lot to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to all the fans. Thank you for all the super chats. You go do your things. Please smash the like button, comment, and subscribe, and all of those things. Go look at all the descriptions, all the links over there for you guys that you can follow this. Go to all of them, click on them, etc. There's so many opportunities for you guys on Cricket Fanatics magazine, on SA Cricket, because that's what we want to speak about over here, and then build from that, and then start talking about other countries as well. So please go ahead in the description and click on all of those things. The Patreon, obviously there's some advice for you with regards to promoting your business with Cricket Fanatics magazine as well. There's so many opportunities for you. Just go ahead and go check that out. Thanks a lot to Aditya. Thanks a lot to Tim. Thanks a lot to Sheikh, Cricket Connoisseur, Umpo, the caller that called into the show as well. We'll see you guys again a little later. I'm going to try to do a show tonight. If you don't see anything, then you know there's no show. But I mean, I'm probably going to do a show tonight at 8 with someone that's going to really give you some insight into the history of South African cricket. And if not, then I'll see you again tomorrow with another daily show. Thanks a lot for everybody tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.